Thank you. Thank you, Ben. Hello, everybody again, and very glad to welcome you to this meeting on participation. The ISC principles commit to adopt agency mechanisms that feed into and support collective, coordinated, people-centered approaches that enable women, girls, boys, men, including the most marginalized and at-risk people among affected communities, to participate in and play an active role in decisions that will impact their lives, well-being, dignity, and protection. That's a commitment made in 2017 by the IASC principles, the principles of the Interagency Standing Committee, which is basically the global forum of the humanitarian community. The UN organization, international organizations, and national NGOs are also represented. A strong commitment to participation and a strong commitment to making this participation possible and working about it collectively. I think it's fair to say now that participation is a right in the humanitarian response, rooted in the humanitarian charter and the core humanitarian standard, to name a few examples. But the right to participation goes beyond the humanitarian response. I can refer to the guiding principles on internal displacement, guiding principles 28, which also calls for the full participation of IDPs in the planning and management of durable solutions to internal displacement. So the participation is a very pervasive principle. What I would like to do with you today is actually to discuss participation through the protection lens and see what protection helps us to achieve as protection workers. And I will highlight, of the panelists we have today, will highlight 4 types of outputs that require participation to be effective indeed. I will introduce the participants as they will take the floor, but I would like to acknowledge right away the participation of Paola Betancourt, the special representative, the special rapporteur, sorry, on the human rights of IDPs. Paola, are you with us?
Yes, Christophe, I'm here. Happy to be here.
Paola, we're very happy to have you on board. You will speak actually at the end of the session.
Yes, I will.
With some concluding remarks. We are looking forward to hearing you. Paola, just to say, you're the special rapporteur on the human rights of IDP. So one of these mechanisms put in place by the United Nations Commission on Human Rights, and one of the thematic special rapporteurs there. Thank you. Thank you for being with us, and see you later. Now, the first aspect of participation I would like to illustrate is actually the foundational aspect of protection as one of the principles for protection mainstreaming, which it applies for any sector of the humanitarian response, but it applies as well to us as protection workers, and is relevant as well to our protection programming. And for that, I would like to have a conversation with Jerry. Jerry McCarthy is with us today. Jerry is actually an expert in a method of assessment and engaging with communities, which is called PFIM, People First Impact Method. Jerry, you're with us, great. You bring with you 40 years of experience in management positions in humanitarian development and peace building programs, and you have also built networks of national NGOs in various countries: Sierra Leone, Gambia, Malawi, Mozambique, Kenya. Jerry, I mean, I've listened to you in the presentation organized by Sphere recently, where you had very challenging views of participation, and you claim that actually when humanitarian partners engage with communities, they have actually a distorted dialogue with them. Can you explain what this distortion is about and how it, what's the effect of this distortion and how it can be avoided? Jerry, you can shake us, please.
Thank you very much, Christophe. Listening and trust is the foundation for meaningful engagement. In the PFIM exercise, we listen and establish trust so that communities share their challenges, opportunities, and solutions, and where there are gaps, and how agencies can best support them and add value. In this way, the community voice informs the assumptions that inform agency programs, policy, and strategy. This is central to address the issue you've just raised, Christophe. And agencies often state, but we as agencies have projects to implement, expectations from donors, and indicators to inform, etc. The problem with this is that community engagement is seen as separate from agency programs, and it is not. The truth is that assumptions and programs should be informed by the community. Outcomes and indicators should be developed with people, and agency and donor expectations should be aligned with a community-led approach. If we do the right things, and we do things the right way, there should be no gap between community engagement and agency programs. In more than 15 years of applying PFIM in over 50 countries with hundreds of agencies, we learn that agencies greatly underestimate community ability, knowledge, and solutions. And agencies overstate their own capacity and contribution. Protection is not an isolated issue. Communities view important life issues as integrated. In the Sahel, the closure of schools due to the conflict directly impacts children, especially girls. Sexual exploitation, abuse, and early marriage. To counter this, families construct makeshift schools to keep children in education, even without agency or government support. Attending school is more than education. It is about safeguarding, well-being, and protection. With standard agency questionnaires, we don't hear how people relate education and protection. Protection workers should know how to listen and build trust, so people can share how they truly feel about education, the action they are taking, and how agencies can best add value. PFIM exercises were convened across East Africa in 2018 to inform the Global Compact for Refugees. 20 agencies participated in a PFIM exercise in Adjumani, Uganda. A team engaged with a group of refugee children. When the children felt safe, they began to cry. The team was patient. The children shared why they were upset. Men pretending to be from an NGO asked questions about our families in Sudan. We fear our families will be killed and that we will be kidnapped and abused. No agency, including the lead protection agency, were aware of why refugee children were so afraid. During two-way engagement, the issue of child abuse was discussed by all groups: women, men, elders, youth, religious leaders, people with disabilities, etc. They shared what they will do to protect and reassure refugee children, to catch the culprits, and how agencies can best support them. Communities are frustrated by tokenistic, agency-driven approaches. People often say during PFIM exercises, agencies ask questions and leave. This is different. It is the first time you agencies truly listen to us and return to discuss our issues with us. Red Cross convened an evaluation of Ebola in West Africa in 2015. In PFIM exercises, people said, "We did not trust the messenger, so we did not trust the message." Agency advice made no sense to us. They said, "Go to clinics if you have symptoms," but even nurses and doctors were dying in the clinics. We turned to our traditional and religious leaders, but that did not work, and many more died. Communities asked, why did Red Cross, WHO, and agencies not listen to us at the start to hear that for us, Ebola was a curse from God? We could have trusted and listened to each other to understand Ebola as a disease and address it together. Eventually, we understood Ebola and took control of it ourselves. Ebola may return. Next time, we know what to do. We don't need agencies. Listening and trust are not soft skills. It requires commitment, respect, and patience. It is easy to ask questions, gather data, and do a desk analysis. Easy, but not effective. It is not fit for purpose. The real truth about people's lives, their depth of understanding of challenges and solutions, is not heard. When we listen, build trust, and adopt an added value approach, we will do the right things, do things the right way to achieve sustainable outcomes that save lives, save time, and save money. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry, for these strong words. Back to the basics. But Jerry, I would like to ask you a question. I mean, I'm not entirely familiar with the methodology, but I mean, your message is that we come with an agenda, and that this agenda, in a way, blurs the communication between we want to have with the communities to understand. And in one of the steps in your process, you propose a goal-free conversation with the community, which I found an interesting concept. Can you say in one or two words what this goal-free step is about?
If I bring questions to the community, I'm assuming that I have the right questions. And who told me? Who told me that I know what the right questions are? Would it not be better to listen first to the community, to understand what is important for them and why, and to hear their issues, positive and negative, solutions as well as challenges. And then from there, if we have questions and issues that we would like to engage the communities on, we can do so later in a two-way engagement. But first, the goal-free exercise is to hear the voice of communities before we even write our questionnaires.
Thank you. We are going, Jerry, we're going to share the link to PFIM in the chat. Thank you for that. Now, participation as a foundation for the humanitarian response, as an element of protection mainstreaming. I would like to illustrate that now in practice with the example of UNFPA in Afghanistan. I would like to welcome Fazli Ahmadullah from UNFPA. Fazli, you're with us?
Yes, I am.
Yes, great. Thank you for joining us. You are a program analyst, a focal point for accountability to affected population with UNFPA in Afghanistan. And actually, when I prepared this session, I was approached by UNFPA suggesting they could make a presentation on how UNFPA engaged with women and girls during the annual assessment. And I said, oh, that must be challenging in Afghanistan. I want to know more on how this is done. Fazli, can you tell us how this was possible and what you managed to achieve? Thank you.
Thank you. Let me begin by underscoring some of the many challenges to ensuring the participation of women and girls in humanitarian work in Afghanistan. Systematic restriction by the de facto authorities on women's mobility, employment, and engagement in the humanitarian space have severely reduced their visibility in the formal humanitarian structure. Following the Taliban takeover in 2021, there have been multiple restrictions and decrees issued that have banned female humanitarian workers from working and limited women and girls in the communities that we support from accessing the humanitarian assistance. Given the strict gender segregation norms in Afghanistan, decrease restricting female humanitarian workers have significantly affected the ability of aid agencies to reach women and girls and have heightened protection concerns. For instance, to reach women and girls, for instance, as most women cannot collect the aid without male family members accompanying them, there is a significant risk of assisting being taken by male relatives as they're accompanying the women and girls in assistance. In addition to challenges for receiving adequate assistance, restriction have prevented Afghan women and girls from participating in the decision-making processes that affect their lives. The exclusion of women voices from decision-making in community planning processes further deepen their marginalization in Afghanistan. Despite these systematic challenges, collective efforts have been made by the humanitarian communities in Afghanistan to amplify women's voice throughout the response cycles. By learning directly from women and girls about their needs and preferences, partners have adjusted their response methodologies to ensure accountable, inclusive, and quality programming. At UNFPA, we design and are implementing a community listening initiative to provide us with feedback from the communities on an ongoing basis. This includes feedback from women and girls. To do this in a safe and protective manner, we have trained community engagement focal points, including staff from local NGOs, youth volunteers, midwives, and female doctors who are able to gather feedback from communities, including and especially from women and girls as a core mandate of UNFPA, and share it back with us. Approximately 70% of the feedback we receive now are from women and girls. In addition, we are also working with partners, including local NGOs, to strengthen a collective approach to understanding the needs of the communities and to engage them in the decision-making processes. As part of this collective interagency work, such as Afghanistan Community Voices and Accountability Platform in Afghanistan, Community Perception Monitoring or System-Wide Accountability Platform, we have established common standards to gather, analyze, and respond to the community feedback and complaints. This includes joint effort to ensure women and girls are able to share their feedback and participate in the decision-making processes through the existing local structures, including women health councils, youth networks, and as well as mobile hotlines at interagency level. This work has been essential in helping us to understand the priorities from women and other often marginalized groups. Through various joint consultations and community validation exercises, we have learned more about GBV trends in protection concerns or protection risks, such as how restricted mobility in Muharram or male family member requirement are limiting women's access to basic assistance and increasing their exposure to gender-based violence. The participation of women in the community. This as community assessment work has provided humanitarian agencies with vital information to adopt the response to better meet their needs. For example, I can give you a practical example. UNFPA customized a standard dignity kits for women and girls with disabilities because we received the feedback from women and girls with disabilities that the kits are not suitable for us. So we as a UNFPA listened to them and we customized it based on need from women and girls with disabilities. In other example, integration of restrictive and sensitive protection services, including GBV, with other services such as integration of PSS services or psychosocial support services in vocational training for GBV survivors under the health facilities, which are less restrictive for women and girls. And then what community feedback data has provided strong evidence to adjust humanitarian programming across the sector, ensuring that women and girls have safer and more equitable access to the assistance. For instance, at interagency level, women reported challenges in accessing psychosocial support due to the distance and mobility restriction. Based on this feedback, outreach psychosocial services were expanded to reach women in their own communities and reduce the risk which they face while traveling to or reaching to the services that are far from them. As a result of collective efforts to increase women's participation in humanitarian decision-making processes, there has been a steady increase in the percentage of women who report that they are able to safely access the humanitarian services. This effort also ensured that women's needs remained central to the 2025 Humanitarian Need and Response Plan, or HNRP, process is in prioritization exercises. So which where we during the HNRP consultation processes, UNFPA together with the protection cluster engage directly with the community, especially with women and girls, to understand their needs, their priorities, and their protection concerns. The findings from this consultation were presented to all clusters, particularly to protection in GBVOR, that the voices of women and girls inform the decision-making, prioritization, and planning, and to center the protection needs of women as a priority across the sector. Feedback from women is also shaping the 2026 response planning processes, which is ongoing now. Findings from this interagency feedback mechanisms has highlighted multiple protection concerns as well as priorities for protection programming. For example, women raised concerns about the presence of mine in unexploded audiences, empathizing the importance of incorporating mine risk education in clearance efforts, and also identified the need of psychosocial support to further expand into better integrated with other services. So together, these UNFPA lead and interagency initiatives demonstrate a clear processes from listening to adopting to achieving measurable change, ensuring that Afghan women and girls are not only consulted, but their voices meaningfully drive humanitarian decision-making and accountability. Let me finish by noting 3 lessons that can be taken into other contexts based on the experience of ensuring women participation in Afghanistan in the humanitarian decision-making processes. First, trusted female frontline workers, including female doctors, midwives, mostly from local NGOs and existing local structures, including women health councils and youth networks, which are more often the trusted people for the communities, women and girls, are critical entry point for ensuring safe engagement with women and girls. Second, whenever possible, real-time feedback using hotlines or face-to-face engagement should be used to adjust the provision of services to ensure this effectively meet the needs of women and girls. So during the implementation, we receive feedback from the communities and we need to action. We need to course correct our programs based on the feedback from women and girls. The last but not least, accountability mechanisms should be embedded within protection and GBV programming rather than treating them as parallel processes. So by institutionalizing these practices, humanitarian actors can ensure that participation directly contribute to safer access, improved service quality, and reduced protection risk of women and girls, not only in Afghanistan, but in other crisis settings facing similar challenges. In the context like Afghanistan, the challenges is not whether participation is possible, but it is how creatively and safely we can make it possible. Women's voice might be constrained, but they are not silent. Our responsibility as a humanitarian actors is to ensure those voices shape every plan, every service, and every solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Fazli. So in an environment like Afghanistan, where women are purposely made invisible and muted, there is a way to reach out to them and bring them to the table where, or their voices to the table where decisions are made. And what I noticed in particular in the solutions found is the role of the local organizations. You mentioned the youth networks and other women-led organizations who serve as a bridge between, should I say, us and the communities and the women in the communities. In the case of Afghanistan here, which I find very very interesting. Thank you, Fazli. I mean, I was just mentioning the role of local organizations. Now, do we also involve and have the local organization as part of the coordination? This is an event organized by the Protection Cluster, and at the country level, do the local organizations have access to the work, to the coordination mechanisms and structures, to the cluster, basically the Protection Cluster? And to discuss that, I would like to welcome Shambel Mekuwanint. Shambel, are you with us?
You hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Shambel,
Okay.
thank
First
you.
of all,
Thank you.
yes.
Yes, I hear you.
First of all, I would like to thank you, Christopher, inviting me to participate on this session.
Pleasure.
So
let me introduce you, Shambel. Give me just a minute, if I may. You're the vice president of the Addis Ababa Elderly and Pensioners Association.
Right.
And basically, you have worked with HelpAge to empower the associations of older people for accessing precisely and participating in the coordination of the protection response in Ethiopia. Shambel, can you share this experience? Because now I know that now we have actually OPAs, Oldest People Associations, which are part of the cluster in Ethiopia. How was this achieved? Shambel, can you tell us?
Yes. As you have told me now, my name is Shambel Mekuwanint Nagash. I am based in Addis Ababa, where I serve as the president of the Literacy Subsidy Older People's Association, OPA. I represent older people in the National Protection Cluster and the Child Protection Area of Responsibility, CPAOR. Have also participated in discussion organized by the Accountability to Affected Population, AAP, Working Group and the PSEA, Protection from Sexual Exploitation and Abuse Network, where I contributed to the review of key documents they developed. Older people and their associations have been excluded from humanitarians coordination mechanisms. In these mechanisms, older people and including protection cluster meeting. This exclusion is due to several systemic barriers, such as the following. The first one is lack of awareness and information about the humanitarian coordination system and ongoing humanitarian programs. And the second one is physical and communication barriers, such as limited mobility and lack of accessibility transport. The other one is inaccessible meeting venue and formats. And the other one is use of technical language of familiar language without interpretation service. And the last one is absence of the assistive device like hearing aids and large print materials. And the third one, lack of responsible accommodations for older people with impairment. The fourth one is the digital divide devices which make online meetings inaccessibility for many older people who lack digital literacy or internet accesses. So to address these challenges, HelpAge International provided technical and financial support to older people and older people association to strengthen their confidence and understanding of the humanitarian system. So this included training on the humanitarian program cycle, and the other one is awareness of rights-based approach and legal frameworks. And the other one is development of advocacy skills, enable meaningful participation in the cluster meetings. This support empowered older people to understand how humanitarian decisions are made and how they can influence them. From the trained OPS, two older people associators, one from Tigray and one at the national level, were selected based on their interests, achieved participation and leadership potentials. They were introduced to the protection cluster and the formally integrated into the coordination system. Ongoing membership and support continue to strengthen their role or representatives of older people. Older people and OPS were also supported to activate participation in the humanitarian assessments and data collection process. At the same time, humanitarian actors received training on how to include older people in their programming and major data collection took, such as multi-sector needs assessment, MSNA, and displacement tracking matrix, DTM, were reviewed with the support of HelpAge International and our support. This dual approach ensured that the voice and needs of older people were reflected in humanitarian programming. Just to share a tangible result of inclusion efforts, their efforts have led to significant impairments such as the following. The first one is protection analysis update of Ethiopian now include older people's protection issues. And the second one is age disaggregated data above 60 years is now integrated into assessments and specified subgroups such as those over 80 years are identified barriers to access and documented and addressed in program design. And the third one is cross-cutting directives that include age and disability and the importance of including older people associations were developed by the Ethiopian Humanitarian Fund. So to sum up all this, the inclusion of older people has had a positive ripple effect action other sectors. The first one is in child protection. The caregiving role of older people is now recognized. And the second one is their ability to influence gender norms and participates in peace dialogues is being acknowledged. And the third one is this contribution have led to more intergenerational programming, such as events when youth, children, adults, and older people come together to share their experience and knowledge and contribute to inclusive participating efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Shambel. Yes, the participation of local organizations is quite critical in the cluster, in the coordination is critical. You bring the voice of people, and in your case, you bring the voice of a group which is not necessarily considered a priority, the older people, but they play a role, they have capacities, and this is what you succeeded to highlight indeed as a result of your participation in the cluster. There is an important word that you used, which is confidence, building the confidence to join a forum like the cluster, which can be intimidating for people who are not familiar with the system. And I understand that the program that you have benefited from was meant to build your confidence. Jerry, I don't know if you remember in the beginning, said talked about trust, the trust that needs to be established among us with the communities. There is also the confidence that needs to be strengthened among people to be part of the system in a way. It's not about formatting people, but it's making sure that we have a common language as well to understand each other. Thank you very much. Now, there is an aspect of participation which is quite critical to a protection outcome. It's called community-based protection, which is essentially based on the participation of the communities and empowering even more the capacity of communities to take the protection in their own hands. To discuss that, I will actually switch to French. Et je vais accueillir Armel Roussaquet-Routebeza. Armel, vous êtes avec nous? Il faut mettre la slide. Armel, vous m'entendez? Armel, est-ce que vous m'entendez? Est-ce qu'il est toujours là avec nous? Armel, il faut que vous ouvriez votre microphone. Je vais le faire pour vous, peut-être. C'est bon. Armel, vous m'entendez? Il est... Armel, c'est à vous. Qu'est-ce qu'il est? Armel, est-ce que vous m'entendez? C'est à vous de parler maintenant.
Oui, je vous attends.
Oui, Armel, c'est
Oui,
à vous de
merci.
parler. Armel, vous faites, excusez-moi, vous travaillez pour une ONG du Congo démocratique, CEDIE. Vous êtes basé au Sud Kivu et vous êtes en charge d'un programme de protection communautaire. Donc, j'aimerais que vous nous expliquiez en gros en quoi consiste le programme. Et puis surtout, vous avez poussé la participation des communautés un petit peu plus loin que d'habitude dans la gestion du programme. Et j'aimerais que vous nous expliquiez justement cet aspect-là de la participation dans votre programme. Armel, allez-y.
Merci beaucoup pour la parole. Comme vous avez dit, effectivement, nous travaillons dans l'est de la RDC, une partie qui est caractérisée par des crises armées les plus prolongées, ainsi que des conflits interethniques. Et effectivement, comme disait déjà Jerry, il est important que les communautés aient une vision. Et c'est dans ce sens que nous privilégions effectivement cette approche de protection à base communautaire, une approche qui vise plus un processus de prise de conscience des membres de communauté en ce qui concerne leur leadership face aux problèmes de protection auxquels ils sont confrontés. Donc ça, effectivement, c'est un paquet que nous essayons de mettre en place. Et cela, c'est effectivement essentiel que la communauté soit consciente du rôle qu'il doit jouer dans le cadre de sa propre protection. Et cela débouche sur les actions des communautés qui sont des actions à mettre en place ou à redynamiser des structures de protection communautaire que nous accompagnons. Et il y a effectivement les comités de protection communautaire, il y a aussi les forums des femmes qui visent effectivement à prendre en compte les problématiques spécifiques des femmes et des filles. Et ainsi, on accompagne ces structures de protection à base communautaire à développer, à faire des analyses des protections, effectivement comprendre les problématiques auxquelles ils sont confrontés et cela leur permet d'établir ce qu'on appelle des plans de protection communautaire dans lesquels effectivement ils identifient ces différentes problématiques auxquelles ils sont confrontés. Voilà, et ces structures de protection communautaire sont vraiment des structures qui sont mises en place ou redynamisées sur une base de volontariat. Donc, effectivement, c'est déjà une prise de conscience de la communauté de s'engager en faveur de leur propre protection. Au-delà de ces volontariats, nous, avec le partenaire, par exemple Oxfam qui nous accompagne, nous nous assurons effectivement d'apporter un appui en termes de renforcement des capacités sur différentes thématiques, effectivement, qui sont identifiées par les communautés. Et le plus souvent, il y a des formations sur comment les communautés doivent conduire les analyses de protection, les analyses des risques, et comment ils peuvent aussi s'engager dans le processus de plaidoyer au niveau local et autant d'autres thématiques. Et en somme de tout cela, nous nous sommes rendus compte effectivement que 60%, entre 60 et 70% des actions qui visent à atténuer les risques sont menées par les communautés dans cette approche de protection à base communautaire. Mais lorsqu'on a essayé un peu d'évaluer, nous sommes arrivés à une conclusion que lorsque alors on veut évaluer l'impact de ces actions qui sont menées par les communautés en majorité, les acteurs qui sont plus engagés dans ces évaluations, c'est le plus souvent nous, les organisations nationales, et parfois les organisations internationales qui nous accompagnent. Et à ce niveau-là, les communautés deviennent les structures que nous accompagnons et qui ont été des co-responsables de plusieurs actions, deviennent des sujets auprès de qui on va chercher à analyser, donc qu'on va interviewer. Et cela nous a démontré effectivement un déséquilibre de pouvoir et un défi de prise en compte effectivement de la responsabilité de tout un chacun, la contribution de la communauté ainsi que la contribution des acteurs humanitaires. Donc, c'est à ce niveau, effectivement, que nous avons essayé un peu de pousser l'approche plus loin pour intégrer ce qu'on appelle l'approche féministe, donc dans les suivis évaluations. Donc, nous avons voulu effectivement que la communauté qui a été co-responsable de plusieurs actions visant l'atténuation des risques puisse également participer dans l'évaluation de l'impact pour que aussi effectivement ils se rassurent quelles étaient les valeurs ajoutées et la contribution de leurs efforts et de leur volontariat. Donc, et c'est à ce niveau effectivement que nous sommes en train de piloter. Donc, au sein de chaque structure qui est effectivement chargée de participer à l'évaluation de l'impact de leurs actions. Et cela a suivi un processus qui a commencé effectivement par accompagner ces mêmes communautés à définir une théorie des changements. Effectivement, c'était une activité complémentaire au plan de protection communautaire pour essayer un peu de voir quel est le changement que les communautés veulent. Donc, ça rejoint effectivement ce que Jerry disait, la vision de la communauté en ce qui concerne la protection, c'est quoi? Et cela a été défini par la communauté elle-même. Et à cette théorie des changements, ils ont aussi essayé un peu de définir des indicateurs euh, qu'ils souhaitent effectivement vérifier pour voir quel est le changement qui a été conduit qui a été produit par les différentes activités qu'ils ont menées. Et à ce niveau, nous avons aussi accompagné à établir, donc ils ont eu la responsabilité d'établir un petit questionnaire, effectivement un questionnaire basé sur les capacités locales. Effectivement, ce questionnaire a été remonté vers nous pour juste donner quelques commentaires de feedback. Et je pense que le feedback que nous avons donné Oxfam au niveau des communautés, ça a été vraiment d'abord un aspect très important aux communautés de voir aussi que leurs initiatives peuvent faire
Mettre la slide
objet
suivante.
des compléments par les autres agences. Euh, En termes de résultats, c'est vrai, les communautés ont réalisé quelques focus group auprès des autres membres de communauté et des entretiens individuels aussi. Alors, et en termes de résultats liés à la théorie des changements, c'était effectivement que les autres pairs membres de la communauté ont confirmé, par exemple, la suppression des barrières au niveau dans la chefferie de Lemera, effectivement les barrières auxquelles étaient affectées les femmes et les filles, surtout les déplacés et les membres des communautés hautes. Deuxième résultat lié à la théorie qu'ils ont développée et qui ont été témoignés par les autres membres des communautés, c'est la réduction des violences basées sur le genre et de manière spécifique les grossesses précoces et forcées. Surtout, cela s'était plus accentué en milieu scolaire et dans des ateliers de coupe et couture au niveau de l'EMERA. Un troisième résultat qu'ils ont trouvé, c'était aussi effectivement l'accroissement de la connaissance des membres de communauté et généralement les femmes et les filles des structures de prise en charge. Et c'est là, effectivement, on a noté des témoignages que les communautés commencent déjà à s'y rendre. Mais
Oui.
un élément très important.
Armel, je vais vous interrompre juste une chose, une petite chose. D'abord, vous avez dit que les communautés participaient à l'évaluation. Moi, en fait, c'est plus que ça. C'est elles qui conduisent l'évaluation, hein, et vous les accompagnez, comme vous avez dit. C'est bien ça?
Oui,
Oui, oui, oui. C'est-
effectivement, actuellement, la responsabilité, c'est la communauté et nous, on les accompagne.
Oui, oui, oui. Alors, j'aimerais savoir maintenant, quel est le retour de cette évaluation sur le programme de participation, de protection communautaire? Qu'est-ce que la commission et ceux qui ont conduit l'évaluation ont eu comme retour sur le programme lui-même? Oui,
Oui, parmi les retours que les membres des structures et même les communautés ont donné, euh, c'est que ils ont effectivement confirmé cette prise de conscience de la communauté qui est déjà engagée dans les actions préventives et même des actions de réponse. C'est vrai qu'il y a des actions d'alerte. Les communautés sont déjà à mesure effectivement de soulever des alertes et les partager auprès des autorités, mener des actions des plaidoyers qui visent effectivement à prévenir des risques ou à adresser les menaces qui sont déjà vécues dans leur communauté. Euh, et l'autre feedback, c'est que ils ont déjà compris que la communauté, bien que c'est elle qui souffre des problèmes de protection, mais elle est au même moment l'unité de transformation de leurs propres problèmes en des solutions de protection. Donc, et je pense que ça rejoint ce que disait Jerry, que la communauté a cette capacité effectivement de donner, de s'exprimer sur ce qu'elles veulent et aussi de proposer des pistes de solutions. Et le troisième impact, c'est effectivement cette visibilité de certaines couches sociales qui étaient moins visibles dans la communauté, en particulier des femmes. On sait effectivement que nous sommes dans des communautés où il y a aussi des pratiques coutumières néfastes qui ne veulent pas l'émergence de certaines catégories sociales. Donc, cette approche-là donne la voie et l'espace à ces catégories pour aussi participer au développement et à la mise en œuvre des actions. Et aussi, c'était aussi un point d'action que les communautés ont donné. Donc, c'est comme un apprentissage. C'est qu'ils ont trouvé effectivement que le fait de développer une théorie des changements avec des indicateurs localement concis, c'est déjà un aspect qu'ils vont intégrer dans le plan de protection communautaire pour qu'à chaque moment, ils peuvent s'arrêter pour essayer un peu de voir est-ce qu'ils sont en train d'atteindre les résultats et les indicateurs en matière de protection. Et il y avait aussi un autre feedback, c'était lié aux perceptions des membres des communautés, effectivement, qui ont démontré dans le focus et les entretiens individuels les résultats qui ont été témoignés par les membres de communauté sont vraiment en lien avec le plan de protection communautaire. Donc, ça aussi, c'était une perception de satisfaction au niveau pour les membres des structures. Et peut-être avant de finir, il y a un aspect très important, c'est que dans les feedbacks des membres de communauté, lorsqu'ils ont cité les acteurs qui ont contribué au changement dans leur communauté, il y a les structures de protection, les CPC, les forums de femmes, qui ont été aussi cités en même titre que Oxfam, au même titre que des organisations internationales. Et ça a été vraiment un aspect très intéressant pour montrer effectivement que les perceptions des membres de communauté n'est pas basée sur les gros moyens qu'on apporte, mais sur l'apport que chaque acteur a apporté dans le cadre d'adresser les risques de protection. Voilà. Et peut-être
le dernier point ici que, Armelle, que je trouve intéressant sur le capacity building, le dernier point sur la slide, vous voyez?
Oui, effectivement, c'est ce que je voulais dire, que les derniers feedbacks que les membres des structures ont donné, c'est qu'ils ont déjà effectivement aussi appris comment on peut concevoir un outil simple pour évaluer. Et c'est là qu'ils ont considéré que cette approche des 1000 féministes, c'est vraiment une approche qui est basée sur le renforcement des capacités, comment aussi ils peuvent participer à évaluer l'impact. Donc, c'était comme c'était pas théorique cette fois-ci, c'était un renforcement des capacités centré sur les actions.
Là, il y a
Voilà.
une
Et là, je
citation
voulais effectivement
intéressante. Oui,
montrer
allez-y.
un des témoignages d'une des... Oui, c'était une citation, un témoignage des membres de cette commission qui a, après l'analyse des résultats, il a dit elle était satisfait, c'est Madame Rachel, de voir les résultats de leurs actions, mais il a été beaucoup plus satisfait de l'entendre des autres membres de communauté. Donc, quand les autres membres de communauté étaient en train de rapporter, et c'était vraiment comme une approche de face à face entre communautés. Donc, il y a une partie de la communauté qui a mandaté les structures et une autre partie structure qui était mandatée par la communauté. Et les deux parties de la communauté étaient en train de se parler sur les changements qui est intervenu grâce à leurs efforts. Voilà un peu ce que je voulais partager par rapport à cet engagement des structures. Merci.
Armelle, merci beaucoup. Oui, il y a encore une slide ici sur les défis que vous avez à affronter parmi les communautés, mais vous avez souvent des solutions. Hein. Par exemple, pour les groupes moins avancés, vous m'avez expliqué que vous mettez en contact les groupes qui ont déjà beaucoup travaillé sur les plans communautaires. Vous les mettez en contact avec des groupes communautaires qui sont moins avancés, moins expérimentés, pour qu'ils puissent bénéficier de l'expérience des autres. Et d'autres défis. Vous travaillez dans un environnement avec beaucoup de défis. Armelle, merci beaucoup. I will switch back to English. There is a moment, actually, where participation is actually a real, what I call a pathway to solutions, a pathway to durable solutions. But it builds on usually networks of community groups as groups supported by the NGO of Amel in DRC. I would like to welcome Luz Marina Becerra Paneso. Luz Marina, are you with us? Can you hear me?
Sí.
Good. Luz Marina, you are the founder and national director of La Comadre, which is the National Association of Afro-Colombian Women Displaced in Resistance. So you have built a network and a very powerful platform of the Afro-Colombian women victims of the conflict in Colombia. But it all started at the very grassroots community level. And this was this developed into a national platform. How was this possible, Luz Marina? What was the starting point, and where are you today with this platform, with La Comadre? The floor is yours, Luz Marina.
Bueno, buenos días. Buenos días para todas, para todos. Sí, efectivamente, el desplazamiento en Colombia tiene rostro y la mayoría de esos rostros obedecen a mujeres negras afrocolombianas. Una situación que era invisible y que justamente reconociendo que la mayoría de personas que se desplazaban de sus territorios por el conflicto armado eran mujeres negras, surge La Comadre como esa necesidad de hacer visible esas afectaciones diferenciadas y desproporcionadas del conflicto armado en la vida de las mujeres negras, en la cultura de las mujeres negras, en los cuerpos de las mujeres negras. Nuestro trabajo empieza en los barrios, en las comunas, en las localidades, y empezamos por la necesidad de generar estos espacios de confianza entre mujeres negras para escucharnos, para reconocernos entre nosotras, porque veníamos de distintos territorios del país, para entender cuál era esa situación que de manera particular sufríamos como mujeres negras, pero también para documentar estos casos aberrantes de violaciones de derechos humanos, para denunciar también estas violaciones de derechos humanos. Estos espacios barriales nos permitieron conocer y entender nuestras necesidades y sobre todo la necesidad de organizarnos, de abrazarnos entre nosotras, de acompañarnos y construir nuestras agendas políticas como herramientas válidas de interlocución entre las mujeres negras y el Estado colombiano. Entonces, La Comadre, después de ser una organización barrial comunitaria, empezamos con 50 mujeres, luego fueron creciendo el grupo de mujeres a cada territorio donde llegábamos. Entonces, nos convertimos en un referente político importante en el país, porque justamente pasamos de ser una organización barrial a una organización del nivel nacional con más de 7,000 mujeres y sus familias, y con una presencia territorial también bastante importante. Hoy estamos en 33 territorios del país que corresponden a 33 municipios y 16 departamentos en Colombia, consolidándonos como sujetas políticas centrales desde donde el gobierno ha ido construyendo las respuestas institucionales para restaurar los derechos de las mujeres afrocolombianas víctimas del conflicto armado en Colombia. Desde La Comadre nos especializamos en documentar casos emblemáticos de violaciones de derechos humanos. Nos especializamos, tuvimos que especializarnos en construir informes sobre violaciones de derechos humanos, que luego esos informes pudimos presentarlos a organismos como la Corte Constitucional, como máximo tribunal de justicia, y estos informes justamente le permitieron a este organismo, a la Corte, entender que efectivamente el conflicto armado y el desplazamiento forzado a las mujeres negras nos afectaba de manera diferencial y desproporcional. Y estos informes le permiten entonces a la Corte que dentro de los autos y sentencias que expidieron, donde le exigen al Estado colombiano diseñar programas especiales de atención a las mujeres, haciendo énfasis especial en diseñar programas de protección de derechos, reconociendo las afectaciones particulares que sufren las mujeres negras. En ese sentido, creo que la Comadre ha jugado un rol importante en el país y es hacer estos aportes al diseño e implementación de políticas públicas con enfoque diferencial para atender ese conjunto de riesgos específicos que no solo se vive como población desplazada ni como mujeres desplazadas, sino esos riesgos específicos que vivimos como mujeres negras desplazadas. La Corte entonces ha expedido infinidades de autos, el auto 092 que ordena 13 programas para atender la problemática de las mujeres y dentro de esos 13 programas ordena un programa de protección de los derechos de las mujeres negras desplazadas. Y todo esto obedece a esa incidencia que como mujeres de la Comadre hemos hecho ante estos organismos y ante las distintas entidades del Estado. E infinidades de autos que reconocen la violencia sexual, estas graves afectaciones que de manera desproporcional también hemos sufrido como mujeres negras. La Comadre también ha jugado un rol importante ante el sistema integral de verdad, justicia, reparación y no repetición. Es este organismo de justicia transicional que se crea en el marco del acuerdo de paz que se da en Colombia en el año 2016 entre el gobierno y uno de los grupos armados de Colombia, las FARC. Este sistema de justicia transicional crea 3 instituciones: la Jurisdicción Especial para la Paz, que es un mecanismo de justicia cuya competencia es investigar los hechos acaecidos en el marco del conflicto armado, quiénes fueron los responsables y hacer justicia. La Comadre tuvo la oportunidad de entregar varios informes a este organismo de justicia transicional, aportando a esa justicia, a la investigación frente a estas violaciones de derechos humanos y a esa justicia que necesitamos como mujeres y especialmente como mujeres negras. A la Comisión para el Esclarecimiento de la Verdad, que es otra de las entidades que crea este sistema de justicia transicional, tuvimos la oportunidad también de entregar 4 informes aportando a esa verdad que necesita el país, esa verdad que necesita conocer la sociedad colombiana sobre las complejidades del conflicto armado en Colombia y del desplazamiento forzado. Y un rol muy importante que hemos jugado también al interior de la unidad de búsqueda de personas dadas por desaparecidas. La Comadre ha documentado más de 200 casos de personas dadas por desaparecidas de nuestros territorios, de nuestras comunidades, nuestros familiares, aportando a este mecanismo de reparación simbólica que necesitamos como población desplazada y especialmente como mujeres desplazadas. Desde toda esta lucha que hemos liderado desde la Comadre por más de 20 años, hemos logrado que el Estado colombiano nos reconozca como sujetos de reparación colectiva. Esto significa que el Estado, a través de su aparato institucional, deben diseñar programas, políticas públicas y proyectos que contribuyan a resarcir todos esos daños y afectaciones que sufrimos como mujeres negras en el marco del conflicto armado en Colombia. Esto para nosotros es un logro súper importante porque es la búsqueda final de las víctimas del conflicto armado y de la población desplazada, que el Estado nos repare todos esos daños y esas afectaciones que tuvimos que vivir en el marco de este conflicto armado. Creo que la Comare es uno de los sujetos de reparación colectiva más grande que tiene el país. Y ese es un hecho importante porque obliga a las entidades, a todas las entidades del país, a sentarse con la Comadre, a pensarse cuáles son esos programas, cuáles son esos proyectos que necesitan las mujeres de la Comadre para que el Estado resarza esos daños que sufrimos en el marco del conflicto armado. Entonces, hemos venido en esos procesos de diálogo, en esos procesos de negociación, y esto se convierte en un ejemplo también de lucha, no solo para las mujeres de la Comadre, sino para muchas otras organizaciones y comunidades que quieren hacer el mismo ejercicio que ha logrado la Comadre a través de este proceso de reparación colectiva. Pero la Comadre también ha dado un salto, no solamente desde lo nacional, sino a nivel internacional. La Comadre entonces ha venido presentando informes sombra ante comités convencionales del Sistema Universal de las Naciones Unidas, como el CEDAW, que es el Comité para la Eliminación de las Violencias contra las Mujeres, y el CER, que es el Comité para la Eliminación de la Discriminación Racial contra Pueblos Afrodescendientes e Indígenas. La Comadre ha tenido entonces la oportunidad de presentar informes sombra a estos comités donde a partir de las recomendaciones que han hecho al Estado colombiano, han hecho recomendaciones especiales de atención para las mujeres negras y las mujeres indígenas. Pero también al interior de nuestro
Luz Marina,
sistema regional.
We need to conclude. Maybe one last example of the advocacy at the global level. And I have a question, and then we...
Tenemos hoy un caso ante la Comisión Interamericana de Derechos Humanos, nuestro sistema regional, un caso que hemos presentado sobre violación de derechos humanos y que este sistema ha considerado dar apertura a trámite y hoy se encuentra en la etapa de fondo de admisibilidad. Este caso entonces ya no solamente va a servir de referente para la lucha de las mujeres de la Comadre, sino para la lucha de las mujeres negras a nivel regional, a nivel de América Latina. Desde la Comadre venimos promoviendo otras líneas, impulsamos estrategias de sanación psicoespiritual. A través de estas estrategias buscamos contribuir en la superación de los traumas y secuelas generados por el conflicto armado. Venimos promoviendo estrategias de autoprotección en los lugares de acogida donde llegamos para enfrentar estas otras formas de violencia que sufrimos en los lugares de acogida. Para nosotras es muy importante el acompañamiento de todos los distintos actores, no solamente este acompañamiento que nos ha venido brindando el ACNUR, que ha sido muy significativo para nuestra lucha. Hemos sido socios estratégicos con ACNUR durante muchos años y esto efectivamente nos ha permitido poner en la mesa, en la institucionalidad, en el debate, en la esfera pública, nuestras afectaciones en particular, pero también parte de los logros que hemos obtenido a partir de estas luchas, así como la Organización Internacional de Migraciones, quienes también han aportado a esta lucha. ¿Pregunta o concluyo?
Thank you. Actually, you responded to the question. I wanted to ask you indeed, I mean, since we're talking to humanitarian colleagues, what sort of meaningful support can be provided to support a movement like yours, which started from the grassroots, which started from the community and grew into a national national platform, very powerful, engage into solutions, justice, reparation, so critical topics. Luz Marina, thank you for your testimony here. I need to give the floor now to Valeria Verchenina. Valeria, you are the chairman of the charitable foundation, the Stabilization Support Service in Ukraine, and we met in Ukraine. And I could see actually how active you have been to promote a form of participation which is quite original, the IDP councils, which are created at the municipal, the regional, and there is also an annual forum at the national level, and you've been the engine for that. Can you tell us, actually, this is a formal, institutionalized form of participation. Can you tell us how they work and what do they do? And do you see them indeed as critical for durable solutions for IDPs? Thank you, Valeria.
Thank you, Christophe. Thank you, colleagues. Really, in 2014, when Russia invaded Ukraine, part of actually 3 important regions of Ukraine was occupied. It was Crimea, it was part of the Donetsk and part of Lugansk region. More than 1,500,000 people displaced. And as immediate result on this displaced Ukrainian adopt law on protection of internally displaced people. And this law actually have many innovative features for Ukraine legislative system. Like example, in Ukraine, person can be refugee and IDP simultaneously. It was very important for people, like example, from Iran and Afghanistan, who live in Crimea or in Donetsk, so they have possibility to displace and in the same time have that documentation. But unfortunately, very important feature was lost. People who displaced lost access for their municipality, for their councils. They feel that new councils and new host municipals will not prioritize their need. We have no possibility elect or vote on those period of time. So there was a huge question how we can support social cohesion in municipals through editing IDPs to decision-making process. And we look on the international experience, on Colombian experience of victim councils, on Georgian experience on councils of exile, and we figure out that for Ukraine, we need some adaptation and combination done. We can't ask our government to establish council in exile because dozens of documentation lost on occupied territory. Because we speak about cities where 5-6 million people live like in one city. So unfortunately, it's impossible through the financial aspect of this issue. And in the same time, unfortunately, in this period of time, we can't speak about justice because for Ukraine, justice is part of the peace building. So we speak about actually local democracy, about decision making, about meaningful participation. So in 2019, Stabilization Support Services established idea of IDP councils, like consultative and expert body within the local municipality. We ran first 5 IDP councils, and it was a huge success. Our biggest scare was that people will not participate because, I'm my own woman displaced with a minor child. My first priority was just establish normal condition to my child, establish things like where to live, where buy to food. So I understand how it's hard to the people relocate voluntary part of their time to go to the municipal to discuss some decisions, to look the programming. It's actually hard legal work to go through all bureaucratic issue of the local democracy. But people was really inspired of this possibility. And in the first year, we have dozens of people who tell we want the same. And because before 2022, there was 5 main regions where IDP concentrated, mostly these IDP councils establishing in this region, like Donetsk region, Lugansk, Kharkiv, Zaporizhia. So many people live there. In 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine like second time, and because of full Russian aggression, there was more than 12 million people displaced, half of them abroad and half in the country. So it was very hard to find at least one community where it do not face consequences of the war. And it means that in one community there will be local people who suffering by the war, and IDPs who suffering by the war, people whose house damaged, and people who return from abroad. So many different people who need social protection and who need to find their way to live in peace and somehow find resources to restore their community, to develop new processes. And actually, IDP councils in this moment start playing crucial part, because it's not just IDP who participate in IDP councils. It's created through the idea that three parts need to be represented: IDP themselves, representative of NGO who work for IDP, and representative from local government. So discussion can be really expert and meaningful because it's combine all main actors. And right now in Ukraine, more than 1,000 IDP councils established. From this 1,000, more than 700 actually actively work. Because all these councils, they communicate between them, they exchange information, which program for IDP integration need to be adopted, where we can find resources, they all actively communicate to find their ways to shape agenda of the of the municipality. Gromada is Ukrainian type of municipality. So just for example, this year in one of Gromada in Rivnenska Oblast, they advocate for community, put more money for the program, which will pay for re-education of the people, because many people come but they can't find a job. So just to give them profession with which they can go and work, they pay for this re-education. And this program benefit IDPs and locals in the same time. Oleg example, project for social adaptation and support for IDP. In some of Gromada, there was a program for local who just not include IDP. So IDP council advocate for these changes. It's just, 3 words after comma added in the programming. But how many things change in real life because these 3 words were added? And actually tomorrow there will be a third all-national IDP Council Forum in Kiev. And for IDP councils, such forum is a platform where they can discuss what they want, discuss what they need, discuss how they will develop. And I don't try to tell you that IDP councils always successful. No, it's about human resources. It's about burnout. It's about Gromadas who maybe was successful last year, but right now they on the risk of occupation and evacuation happening there. It's about people who maybe push hard to communicate with with municipality, but they not answer. Even if IDP councils include like 30 very professional, active people, but municipal not interested to cooperate, it will be like 100 like measures by null. Unfortunately, it still will be 0. So it's very important for Ukraine IDP councils stay in contact with their municipality, with regional administration, and with the government on the central level, because this is how advocacy can be successful, and this is how we can find like a reasonable solution. Because Ukraine is a very big country, and we have like a more safer regions, like example, Ivano-Frankivsk, Rivne, Lviv, when people can live without risk, like happening in occupation. And we have territory each in a huge risk right now. Like example, Pokrovsk, when people count a day before occupation can happen. So what ADP councils try to do? They try to support, like example, programming for support evacuation. They try to establish solution to relocated some social institutions. They try to discuss possibility to budget allocation, like example, to spend budget each was planned for the region each already occupy for the relocated institution in Azegramada. Because three things each IDP council try to guarantee to the people. It's including in the decision-making process and ensuring accountability. It's social cohesion and recovery and restoration in the municipal level. And it's including of types of the people who are suffering by the conflict in the future, like restoration and inclusion. Sorry, I can speak about ADP councils forever, maybe like few weeks without any silence. So maybe you have some question and it will be more productive if you start answer.
Do one question, actually, Valeria. We are running out of time now in the session. But tomorrow you say you will have the national forum, right?
Yeah.
And I suppose to have an institutional form like this and a powerful form of participation obliges the authorities to be there. So who is going to open from the government tomorrow the forum? Is it?
Unfortunately, we will have no representation of Minister of Social Policy. We try to advocate for their participation, but unfortunately, they have huge institutional crisis right now. They have too little people and too many tasks. So we will have representative of Minister of Regional Development and Territory, and we will have representative of Ms. Irina Vereshchuk. She was actually Vice Prime Minister when ADP Councils was established, and like Minister of Ministry Integration, she supports this movement until the last year. Last year, she switched her position for the position of the Office of the President, and like a person, she supports IDP Councils movement very much. But very important to IDP Councils actually have lead ministry, lead central government authority, who will responsibility for the coordination of IDP Councils. Minister of Regional Development, this ministry established for discussion recovery in terms of logistic, buildings, roads, schools, clinics. It's not actually human centralized approach. This is why we believe that Minister of Social Policy need lead IDP councils. And we dream that in the future this will happening. Unfortunately, not tomorrow, but maybe rather sooner than later.
Thank you, Valeria. Anyway, well, maybe this year is a bit more difficult to get the right level of you would hope to have for a national forum, but basically the councils bring the authorities to account, and they have to be there to show support, to show attention that otherwise maybe the IDPs would not have. Thank you, Valeria, and best wishes for the forum tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Let's conclude this session. I will give the floor to Paola. Paola, are you with us?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
I'm here.
Thank you. Paola Gaviria Betancourt, you're the Special Rapporteur on the Human Rights of IDPs. You've been in this position since 2012. Actually, you probably visited all the countries that we have discussed today, and you're familiar with these forms of participations. What sort of observations would you like to share with us as concluding remarks?
Thank you very much, Christophe, and thank you everyone and the GPC for this very inspiring event, and to all our panelists for what they shared with us in the last 1 hour and something. And yes, I have visited most of the countries. I have requested visits to Afghanistan and Ethiopia, but not yet been accepted. So I hope to see you in person there. So very briefly, some key takeaways from Jerry. We were reminded of the persistent gap between the intention of participation and the reality of the community experience. So too often, Agencies design tools, questionnaires before listening, resulting in processes that feel extractive and tokenistic. That is unfortunately true. Communities are tired of being consulted and then left behind. So we must ask ourselves definitely who writes the questions, but who really holds the answers. And at the heart of this is trust, reiterated by you, Christophe, and all the participants. Trust building is not a soft skill. Jerry said this, is a professional competency. Without time, respect, patience, critical protection concerns remain invisible. So we also heard clearly that community engagement is not a parallel activity. It is programming, and needs and responses must be defined together with communities, recognizing both their capacities and our limitations. From Fazli in Afghanistan, we saw how participation can continue even under profound constraints. Decrease restricting female humanitarian workers, have limited access to women and girls, and heightened protection risks that we all know about. But yet, through trusted female health workers and local partners, UNFPA has managed to sustain meaningful engagement, receiving, as we heard, 70% of feedback directly from women and girls. And this feedback has already shaped real program adaptations for accessible dignity kits to priorities for the 2026 GB plan. So their voices here are constrained, but definitely not absolutely silent. From Shabelle in Ethiopia, we learned about the barriers older persons face. So mobility challenges, inaccessible venues, lack of devices, digital devices, and technical language that excludes. But with targeted support to older persons associations, building confidence, as you mentioned, Christophe, trust, knowledge, skills, their participation in strengthening coordination spaces is a good example. So the inclusion of age disaggregated data also and directives on inclusion has had, as we learned from Shabelle, ripple effects that go far beyond the older person's issues, improving outcomes as we saw in child protection. From Amrel in South Kivu, DRC, where I visited this year, we saw that it means what it means to move participation one step further. So to genuine community leadership. Communities there define their own vision, identify the challenges, create the protection plans, and now participate fully in evaluation and in evaluating the impacts and co-developing indicators. So this was also very important for us to learn. And yes, they have challenges like literacy that persist, but solutions are emerging from within the community itself. Luz Marina, I can speak all day about La Comadre and her experience because I live in Colombia, I work in Colombia. So she showed us how grassroots women's organizations can evolve into national and international reference by documenting human rights violations and also inspiring other processes, like we heard from Valeria, that our process in Colombia has inspired the IDP councils in Ukraine. La Comadre's work shows the rigorous documentation, strategic litigation, advocacy can influence states' policies and expose differentiated impacts, in this case on Black and in other cases indigenous displaced women, and secure inclusive protection and justice measures. And yes, tomorrow we have the third All Ukrainian IDP Councils gathering, and my heart is there with you. Valeria, I sent a video. This, as we learned, are consultative bodies at the municipality level with members from IDPs, NGOs, and the municipality. They are examples of participation in local democracy, ensuring accountability, social cohesion at local level. Valeria's NGO was scared people would not participate because they were focused on the need to survive. She has shared that in different spaces, but they did participate. So we cannot assume IDPs cannot or don't want to participate. So now there are more than 1,000 IDP councils, more than 700 actively working and making part of the local and regional level decision making. and challenges, obviously, Valeria, there's challenges. No one is perfect, and the IDPs are not either. There's burnout, there's communication difficulties with the municipalities. So a lot to learn from all of these examples. And to conclude, I just want to say that participation becomes meaningful when communities lead, not just answer. And when we make space for that leadership, the protection response becomes more relevant, more accountable, and far, far, far more impactful. The participation of internally displaced persons is not just another recommendation or a best practice or a nice to have, but a fundamental requirement for effective protection programming. And this session reminded us that participation serves as the engine that drives protection, ensuring that interventions are responsive and rooted in the lived experience of those affected. When displaced persons are definitely and effectively involved in decision-making, they are exercising their rights as citizens and residents of their countries, and IDPs and host communities' meaningful engagement is crucial for achieving, as we saw today, durable solutions, as it fosters a sense of ownership and agency, essential for long-term recovery and reintegration. And ultimately, the inclusion of IDPs in every stage of the process, the designing, implementation, the evaluation, ensures that protection programming is not just a temporary fix, but a path towards lasting resilience, self-reliance, and solutions. Thank you so much, and congratulations for all the work that you all do. Thank you, Christophe.
Thank you, Paola, for these words. I wish we will end this session now with your words. I want to thank also the panelists, all of them, Jerry, Fazli, Armel, Shambel, Luz Marina, and Valeria. Many thanks for your time and sharing your experience generously today. That's great. We could have talked of many other aspects of participation, and I was approached. We haven't discussed participation of children and youth, equally important. We haven't discussed participation in the context of climate change. I mean, the Belém summit is taking place today. It's a bit of a shame we couldn't do, but I'm sure there were lessons learned today which apply to the displacement and the humanitarian crisis caused by the environmental hazards. Thank you, everybody. Yes, thank you. I'm glad to see Luz Marina is not here. Valeria, there must be somewhere on the screen. Thank you so much, and have a good end of the day or the rest of the day. Thank you. Good night. Thank you.
Good night for you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye. Ciao.
Thank you to everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you. Merci. Bye.
Merci. Au revoir.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Asante sana.
Bye.
Merci. Oops.